If you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard in Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. You can make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place.
All right, everybody, and welcome back to the Pro Wrestle Zone podcast. As always, Dan the Beast 94 alongside with me is the DVD Freak. You already know what that means when you see the two of us, hear the two of us, smell the two of us. Hopefully you don't smell us. But we're doing another retro review. Obviously, continuing on with the year 2002. Now we're getting into the deep dish. Oh, yeah, like that deep dish pizza? You're going to like this deep dish shit.
Yeah, there it is.
No Mercy, October 20th, 2002, live from Little Rock, Arkansas. Obviously co-hosted by both Raw and SmackDown, as this was still a cohesive pay-per-view, nonetheless. And I like the opening of the show. Undertaker's in the locker room. He's just looking at his wrist in disgust, like, man, I want to fuck up Brock Lesnar tonight, but my hand fucking hurts. How am I supposed to be the fucking dead man and my fucking hand hurts? I should be numb. And then you got Kane just walking in, casually sits down all nonchalant. So how was your day? Well, I'll tell you about my fucking year. I'll tell you that. But anyway, No Mercy, 2002. What a fucking show. At least getting into like the halfway point at least.
Yeah, this is a prime example of how a B pay-per-view should be treated. You have two really marquee matches, that being the tag titles, new WWE tag titles for SmackDown, and then your Hell in a Cell match. My question for you is, we'll get more into this later, but do you think the Hell in a Cell match happened too quick? I always think that a Hell in a Cell match should really be like the third or fourth match in a rivalry.
Yeah, I mean, the way I see it, I think it was like a little bit too quick. Plus, I think it was a little bit too close to the next pay-per-view, as the next pay-per-view would be, main pay-per-view, I should say, was Survivor Series, in which they introduced the Elimination Chamber. But, yeah, I think match-wise, I think they hyped it up too quickly. And this was at the end point where this was Undertaker's final pay-per-view for 2002 before recovering for an injury and coming back at the 2003 Royal Rumble. So he took a hiatus practically after this pay-per-view.
Yeah, I mean, he'd been going for so long at this point. You know, he needed some time off, get good, heal up, and leading into WrestleMania 19. Not that really he did anything that's special. But, it was a long year for The Undertaker. It really was. He was front and center the entire year. So, take some time off. Brock Lesnar can carry it.
And, he got into this big angle. He basically transitioned so quickly after the Alliance storyline. He just went from, the American badass to, whose ass do I kiss? I'm not embarrassed to kiss Mr. McMahon's ass. And then you got JR's getting face shoved into, Mr. McMahon's flapjacks. It's yikes. But obviously, proceeding after that, you got Undertaker transitioning, got a new look, haircut. First time we've seen Undertaker in short hair ever since his 10 years, starting in the late 90s at Survivor Series. And then becoming WWE champion, tarnishing the, 3-week reign of the returning Hulk Hogan. So that was pretty miserable. That was like you spoil ketchup and mustard, you're a bastard. But I mean, with Hulk Hogan, he's been overwhelming too long. But anyway, let's kick this off with the first match. Tag team match. Not your favorite tag team match coming, but it's the first tag team match. Got the world.
It's a tag match.
It's a tag match. World tag team titles on the line. Chris Jericho and Christian, who were world tag team champions. I kind of always found this as a odd pairing, but obviously as time went on, they pretty much lasted for almost 2 years between them becoming tag team partners to Christian gaining some type of push of confidence and, having his peeps to going into a big feud in 2004, the night of WrestleMania 20. Trish loves Jericho. Psych, kicked in the balls, slapped in the face. There's Christian. All right. So then he ends up getting oiled up by Tomko. So, fuck logic, right?
Oh, God. This match, you forget there's even a second tag match on this show. But, Booker T and Goldust, they were also the bizarre pairing. This is kind of like a strange bedfellows match, I think it was called, with the Raw Roulette wheel.
Right.
But yeah, Christian and Chris Jericho, I thought they had great chemistry, and Booker T and Goldust, they found some chemistry to be had there. And overall, it's a decent match. It's like 8 minutes. It's nothing special. I don't think it's a very good opener. I personally would rather have had the Cruiserweight Championship match open the show. I think that would have been just better pacing wise, but it's an alright tag match. It is literally your average tag match in the book.
And you know what? I totally agree with you, because when you start a pay-per-view, I think you should really start off a pay-per-view at a fast pace. That way you're building up people's momentum, and it's like, okay, they're not going to get disappointed early on. So The way I see this was a good tag opener. I mean, you had Goldust, who was practically cleaning house, giving people the gold butts and everything. But then during the match, you got Jericho, who tries and attempts for a lion saw, but breaks his feet under the middle rope. So now this guy has to improvise, and that Jericho's kind of in danger. So he's like, "Oh shit, what the hell am I going to do?" And he ends up going for a top rope moonsault, which I think that's the only time in record that Jericho won with a moonsault.
Yeah, and I could just picture Vince backstage. It's like, what the fuck? Who didn't tighten the turnbuckles? I could just picture him slamming down his headphones, getting all mad. That was just cringy. I forgot that happened. When it happened, I was like, oh shit, someone's getting the brick.
Well, Mr. Perfect wasn't there for Jericho this time, but that was a pretty improvising situation there for Jericho. But I will give him the credit. I mean, I can understand if he broke like the middle rope, if he was like fat like he is nowadays. But I mean, that was kind of just that wasn't his fault at the time.
Well, yeah, now it would be fucking Banzai Splash, but oh man, they made it work. I mean, I guess that lion salt was supposed to be the finish, and then you could see like they're just like, oh, throw the title belt in, improvise a little bit, get us to where he can go on the top rope. So, dude, they're great. They can make it work, Nowadays, WWE guys would be like, what? Should we just stop the match? Like, they wouldn't know how to improvise nowadays. Jesus Christ. But, yeah, it's funny.
Yeah. Especially when you're calling disqualifications inside Hell in a Cell matches, but we're not going to get into that. I want to get into the next segment here, which was pretty funny at the time. SmackDown's number one announcer, Funaki, backstage, conducted an interview with Al Wilson. Oh boy. I don't know what's worse, this or the story with Kane and Katie Vick. But
or the HLA.
Oh God. Well, that's old news now. But boy, the big question on Funaki's mind was, why was Al wearing clothes when he was taking a shower with Dawn Marie?
You gotta hide your bumpkin, I guess. But yeah, this was wow. I was looking up the star ratings as I always do, and the match after this, it went into Dave Meltzer negative territory, which you don't see often at this time. And I was like, wow. And yeah, it was justified completely. This whole storyline is just awful. And the match itself, it's comparable to like the Queen Charmel TNA match with whoever the fuck. But yeah, this was just embarrassing. Like, oh my
god. Well, getting into the next match, Tory Wilson taking on Damme, obviously fighting over, Al Wilson, Tory's father. And, I think this was better as a cat fight rather than a wrestling match. So let's just face it. I think Tory was just training to become a wrestler around this time, while Damme was just, like,
Fair.
Pure ECW. It's like, why the fuck are you fighting like a corporate? Like, just get in there and fucking scratch. Scrap up, But, you get the referee in here getting steamrolled by both of them while they're fucking brawling. And it's like,
God.
the typical Vince McMahon idea.
That's a good one. Yeah, grab him and then let him roll over you, pal. Such good shit. But they should have put Wilson in a shark cage above the ring or something. Or, like, have Al Wilson on a pole match or some shit. This had some Vinny Roo written all over it.
But Tory finishes with a neck breaker. This match was a little bit over 40 minutes and, pretty much bad.
40 minutes?
Not 40 minutes, 4 minutes.
I was going to say, man, that would be awful. Dude, God.
I fell asleep, that's why. Oh, man. Getting into the next match before that, Rob Van Dam's backstage, stuck in an interview with the coach, practically just mocking Ric Flair. The fives, frog splashing, yada, yada, Ay. Some of the scripts at the time, it's puzzling.
Embarrassing. It's just like, RVD, you gotta love him, but at this time period, he was just being thrown around. Like every pay-per-view. Like, I'm glad they continued the Ric Flair thing, but that was just kind of worthless, honestly. I don't really think this match needed to happen. Like, this is one of those transitional storylines, because obviously he would go to the chamber match and really shine there. So I feel like they're just, all right, what should we do with Rob? We'll just put him in there with Flair, and then till we get to the Survivor Series. But yeah, it's an odd pairing. I don't quite think they have any chemistry at all whatsoever. This was just kind of an awkward pairing, really.
This was kind of a, hey, who wants to be on the pay-per-view? We'll pick two names out of a hat and see how they go. So Rob Van Dam taking out Ric Flair. This was your obvious styles clash. Ric Flair, typical Ric Flair, got to work on the legs because this is this guy's main arsenal. But Van Dam ends up getting the win. 5-star frog splash, 8-minute match. I don't know. This was just like oil and water mixing together, but not making a beautiful rainbow at the end. So
making like a shitty sludge.
Well, that's why they took Ric Flair and paired him with Triple H, or should I say Triple H took him under his wing because, Old Yeller was dying and nobody wanted to put him down.
Yeah, I mean, they should have taken him behind the barn at this point, give him the brick.
Candy for Olympic hero?
Nothing for you. It's true. It's true. Trick or treat, brother. Take a hike.
Trick or treat, if you smile.
Beat it, jabroni.
Halloween is Jericho. Dead man walk. Can you dig it, sucker?
You're the sucker. WWE No Mercy.
Looks like the trick's on you, pig.
And then go to another backstage segment. This is basically foreshadowing for a Big Show push. Basically, arguing with Stephanie, getting aggressive with Eric Bischoff. Why he hasn't been utilized as a main eventer, former WWE champion. I'm a giant. Talking about his WCW record. Of course, you talk about it in front of Bischoff. WCW. I fucking buried it. So, and I think this was right around the time as well. Bischoff practically got tired of Big Show's shit and was like, "You're getting traded to SmackDown." Who he got traded to SmackDown for, I'll never know. That's something I'm just gonna have to do my research on.
What are your thoughts on Big Show? I was never a fan personally.
Honestly, I loved his earlier work when he was the Giant. Obviously, he showed a lot of athleticism as a big guy. Dude was hitting second to third rope drop kicks. Like who would do that? But I mean, he was still transitioning at the time, so there was a lot of stuff that he took heat for until he went to WWE. Started pairing him up with The Undertaker as the, I guess they were known as the Unholy Alliance. It wasn't officially named, but they never officially came out to that name, but that's what they were dubbed. But I think but Big Show practically learned a lot more tutelage-wise rather than sticking around with WCW and taking bullshit orders from Kevin Nash, who was not only wrestling, but making the decisions around there.
Yeah, I don't know. I always felt like he was missing something. I did like his work as the Giant, or even like Paul White, but when it comes to the Big Show, it's just like I just always want to hit skip whenever I hear his music. I can't help it.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Big Show. I mean, very athletic. I would say he was very over in like the 90s and early 2000s because that was practically still going through the phase of big guys. Other than that, I never really saw Big Show as like a favorite of mine. And I don't think it had anything to do with his size because obviously he can't help it. God forbid the guy can't just stop fucking growing. Jolly green giant bastard. But yeah, Big Show. I think if he utilized a lot more technical style of wrestling, speedy style of wrestling, I think he would have been a lot different, like the guys who are performing today.
Yeah. So next match is the cruiserweight title, right?
Yep, cruiserweight title. Jamie Noble taking on Tajiri. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say this was a bad match. I mean, I kind of see this as a bad pairing, but at the same time, you got somebody like Jamie Noble who was working with guys like Akio or Jimmy Wang Yang in WCW. But definitely not a bad pairing. Just very odd. Obviously, two cultural, styles and backgrounds, but characters at least. But like you said in the beginning of the show, I would have preferred this as the opener, just to get people a little bit more invested. Just to give a preview of what tonight's possibly going to be capable of.
Yeah, I was always a huge Tajiri fan. One of my favorite cruiserweights of all time. Jamie Noble, not so much. Not really offense to him personally, but like you said, I think there's a very big talent gap in terms of Tajiri and Jamie Noble. And they were kind of an odd pairing, but give them like 5 more minutes as the show's opener. I feel like they could have put something better together. I really do. And this is at a time when the Cruiserweight title was about to really blow up with, Matt Hardy, Rey Mysterio, that classic feud. I love Rey Mysterio and Tajiri's matches as well. They had some great matches. So, they were still working on the Cruiserweight title, really.
Right. And, Tajiri, I wasn't always the biggest fan of Tajiri, but I've always enjoyed his in-ring work and craft. This was basically WWE's version of Great Muta that they never received.
Yeah, that's probably for the best. Don't destroy him, please. He's a treasure. Please don't destroy Great Muta.
Right. What is the next match that we have here?
Next match was the winner takes all Intercontinental World Heavyweight Championship.
Now, I like the beginning. They showed the opening package of like the lineage and the history of the Intercontinental Championship. Guys who won the belt. They showed some superstars who weren't really not really obligated to the company at the time due to bad relations. They were showing guys like Jeff Jarrett, Macho Man Randy Savage, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Owen Hart, to The Rock, Triple H, basically the main eventers of that modern day at the time. One little oop that I caught. They showed the clip from WrestleMania 6 from when Ultimate Warrior beat Hulk Hogan for the WWE Championship, and they basically just dubbed in, the winning announcement as new Intercontinental Champion when it's like, Warrior was there when Warrior won the WWE Championship that night. He retained the IC, but he didn't win the IC. So it's like, that was pretty much pointless. But basically, they kind of just. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's all right. Similar situation, but Hogan was not Intercontinental Champion in 1990. Like, who screws that up? How do you sit there and edit that video package and put that in there? Like, how? Who does not catch that? Because I assume that has to go through like 4 or 5 people until it airs, including Bucky Beaver. So if Bucky Beaver didn't catch it, then what the hell? Like, come on.
But I did enjoy that little snippet, but obviously they were sitting here foreshadowing like, oh, this is the last night for the Intercontinental Championship. Now, here's my biggest concern. Why would you retire practically your only mid-card title that you had left at the time? Because you got to really think about it. Mid-2002, they had already retired the European and Hardcore Championships. So why retire your main secondary title?
Maybe it's because they were planning on the U.S. title coming in, and they thought maybe they could just replace it.
I mean, yeah, but then that would be taking WWE's lineage away.
Yeah.
You're taking a secondary base title, not even like a secondary base title, but a third base title that started back in like NWA days.
And maybe they were like, all right. Well, it could be the opposite. They're like, all right, well, we can't have one, mid-card title on one show, and we can't have a flip-flop, so why not just get rid of it? So, I don't know. It's just astonishing that they were at one point considering getting rid of it, because to me, that's the most prestigious title they have. I mean, look at how far back it goes. You can't even say the WWE title or WWF title is that really that prestigious. That thing it's gone by so many different names. So many idiots have held it. Whereas the Intercontinental title, at least it usually has someone pretty deserving of it. That's your jumpstart title. That's your gateway to the main event. That's to test if somebody can make a title. Because the title doesn't make the man makes the title. And I think that's one of the few titles they had where it was still an important championship. So why the fuck get rid of it?
Right. That title has drawn so much money unintentionally for fans who were there for just main event matches. You got to think of like WrestleMania 10 with Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon. You got to think of oh boy, yeah, the feud with Stone Cold and The Rock. You got to think of the ladder match from SummerSlam '98 between Triple H and The Rock. So much lineage, and like even if you want to say like the housekeeping match with Chyna and Jeff Jarrett, that was a pretty fun fucking barn burner. But still, that title has brought so much prestige. It's made so many superstars, whether it was intentional or not. But it's like, why get rid of it at a point where it's like you have so many superstars at this point that you have to divide the brands. So you're not really giving anybody a fair opportunity. Everybody might as well just go down to Sunday Night Heat. Like, all right, we're keeping the main guys up here. See ya. So
Oh God, shall we get into this match? Ugh.
and, it wasn't even about the titles. It's all about fucking Katie Vick. What the fuck kind of bullshit is that?
Yeah. God. Do you remember in Survivor Series 2007 where it was Kane, Triple H, Jeff Hardy, and Rey Mysterio? I think Todd Grisham was interviewing them. And they brought up the Katie Vick angle, and it was just phenomenal. Like, Triple H was like, oh, this is a night where 4 people that have done horrible things to each other can get together for a greater cause. And then Jeff Hardy's like, yeah, you put me in the hospital, man. And then Kane's like, he said a bunch of shit, and then he's like, and then you tried to have sex with my dead girlfriend. And Triple H is just like, just cringing at it. And then he's like, yeah, my bad.
Oh gosh, but yeah, it was basically a storyline that went on that Kane and this girl Katie Vick were huge partiers. Go out for a drink. They got all drunk. Kane unintentionally kills her in a car crash, dies on impact, and Triple H just wants to be the fucking asshole bully. Like, you're a murderer. I didn't mean to. I didn't mean to kill her. It was an accident. And now you got both titles on the line. Like, the trophy should have just been Katie Vick. The custody of Katie Vick's fucking SSI check or something. But to have both titles on the line, and not only that, you're going to sit there and retire the most prestigious title rather than the main fucking title? Yeah, buddy. What the fuck are you doing?
Never thought I'd see the day that second-degree murder goes and transitions into a world title match. Like, only in wrestling can you perform necrophilia and get away with it.
Well, I don't know. They're kind of doing that this year with Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton. You could just take Legend Killer out of Randy Orton's name and just put Killer. Murderer. God forbid, the guy's already a fucking venomous snake as it is.
Hey, let's just light people on fucking fire. Awesome.
Triple H ends up getting the win here. Hunter uses the sledgehammer. Kane gets distracted by Flair, allowing Hunter to hit the pedigree. You got Hurricane involved in this match. Okay, that's a big question for you, my friend. What did you think about the pairing of Hurricane and Kane? I mean, why do you think they put them together, pal? God forbid they were even World Tag Team Champions.
You mean Hurricane?
But yeah, basically, yeah.
Look, TLC 4 is my favorite TLC match. And, that was obviously, we'll get to that eventually. But you obviously had Kane defending the World Tag Team titles. I think that's the only thing that people remember. It's just like, I feel like Vince is just like, oh, we have 2 masked people. Let's just throw them together. We'll just have them be your new World Tag Team Champions. And it's just like Hurricane has no business with Kane. It just doesn't work. And this is at a time where Kane was just in really bad limbo.
Right.
He was saturated, and they had to unmask him later next year because they really were desperate. Because if not, then he's just a joke at this point. And I love Shane Helms, don't get me wrong, but if you're teaming with the Hurricane, something's wrong.
Yeah, and I think this was also around the time they were trying to transition into Hurricane having another sidekick. So I think their first choice was like, all right, let's get somebody with the same similar name. Oh, look, there's Kane. You want to tag team with him? You guys both got masks. Kane ain't a superhero. God forbid he got burnt at birth by the fucking Undertaker.
You both do choke slams. There you go.
You both do choke slams. That's my brother. Oh yeah, where's the Big Show? You fucking dumb nasty bastard. But yeah. I mean, didn't really make no sense to me. I mean, I'm glad they finally made the decision for Kane to unmask. But I also believe further down the line as the years go on, They should have never put the mask back on him.
Ugh. Yeah, and they never should have made him Corporate Kane or Mayor Kane. Like at this point, I hate to say this, but Kane to me is one of the greatest characters WWE has ever had. And around this time, we were seeing just, like I said, oversaturation. He was no longer an attraction character. Because he was just over, he's done. I think if he would have retired in the early 2000s, that character would be so much more remembered and protected. And now we look at him, and he's just a damn joke. He's Mayor Kane. They actually said this. Michael Cole said Mayor Kane, for fuck's sake. Did you ever think you'd see the day where in 97 you have Kane ripping the cell door off, one of the best debuts ever, that he would one day be referred to as Mayor Kane?
Boy, he went from burning in a fire with his house burning down to actually building something of his own just 20 years later.
Yeah, it's just embarrassing. Yeah, and then 2012 or whatever the hell, you had him come back at The Mask, which everyone predicted. And The Mask looked horrible. His theme song was horrible. I love Slow Chemical. It's one of my favorite themes. And then you had this really just bad rock instrumental. And he's facing Randy Orton at WrestleMania 28. Like, come on.
Yeah. I tell you what, though. Mid-2003 Kane was the best version of Kane that we got since his debut in 97.
Yeah, and it just was downhill from there. It really was.
Yep, pretty much. I mean, he ended up getting vision in his other eye back. Now he could see full color.
I was just gonna mention that. Okay. A little rant. But he was supposed to be this hills have eyes, disfigured looking motherfucker. And then you have him on Mask. They did a little makeup, put some little charcoal makeup on him and gave him the little half haircut. So you're like, all right, I guess he's not that disfigured. They were saying he was like Sloth or something from the Goonies, so, and it's just the next week you see his face and there's nothing wrong with him. So what was wrong? There was nothing wrong. And they're like, oh, it was just emotional scars. No, fuck you.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
I remember that.
Fuck you. Come on.
It's even if you elaborated to that about 6 or 7 years ago, people would have thought okay, this shit is still cool.
Oh, God. They dropped the ball with Kane really bad. They really did. Might as well just have him come out as Isaac Yankem at the next Crown Jewel pay-per-view. Fuck it.
Don't start off on a bad note.
They should have put him in the gimmick battle royal at WrestleMania 17 as Isaac Yankem.
That means he would have to fucking bleach his hair then, the blonde.
So use a mask. You can just shave it right after. The mask had hair. It's fine.
Yeah, you're right about that. I don't know. That would look kind of weird to me. By this point, you would think he's an orthodontist, but nope, guess not. Anyway, the vacant WWE Tag Team titles are on the line as this is the tournament finals. This is to declare the first ever SmackDown version of the new Tag Team Championships. Have the pairing of Chris Benoit and Kurt Angle taking on Edge and Rey Mysterio. Yeah, this was basically Stephanie being sick of, Raw dominating in the tag team scene. So she created a new set of tag team titles. Let me tell you, this match was probably one of the key matches to the Ruthless Aggression era. Technical style that can keep up with a high-flying style, and fans won't get bored with it. This is an example of what wrestling advertised for years to come, what to expect out of fans. Because obviously fans nowadays, they love those fast-paced matches. It takes all the patience away from a traditional style match, which is why you don't hear a lot of people talk about the 80s or 90s besides their characters. They don't actually talk about the technical style of wrestling unless you were watching guys and praising the likes of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat and guys of that caliber at that time who can, practically yum right in the fucking ring. And, fans will just sit there and be like, Hulk Hogan coming down next? Like, I came here for Hogan. What the hell is this fat shit? God forbid the guy doing cocaine. Yeah, this was a perfect example of saying, fuck patience. We're going by our own pace. And by the end of the day, we're going to convince you that we're going to be the next top caliber of superstars within the next 6 to 8 years.
This is why I say, going back a little bit, I say Macho Man is the greatest WWF superstar of the golden era. Because not only was he that, larger than life character, but he was a great fucking technical wrestler. That's why I say, because back then you either had a really good character or you were a really good wrestler. It's like Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. He wasn't known for his character traits and his promos. I mean, he was good on the mic. He had a great promo at WrestleMania 3, but that's not what people remember him for. And people don't remember Hogan for his in-ring ability, or for his in-ring ability. They just remember him as a character. Whereas Macho Man, you had the best of both worlds. He was the package deal. As I always say, Ric Flair, he was the package deal. That's why I consider the greatest of all time. But yeah, Macho Man, I really think broke that cliche of you're either a character or a wrestler. He was absolutely perfect as both. And that's why I say he was the best they had at the time.
Yeah. Pretty much summed it up right there. But, man, this match I loved. Angle wins, makes Edge tap out. You got your new SmackDown Tag Team Champions with this match going over a little bit over 20 minutes. And, with their combination, this night was on. This night practically said, we're going out with a bang. We started off at a good pace, but now we're going full throttle. And those guys would end up becoming the top 4 revolving around, main event world heavyweight championship scene for the next 6 to 10 years.
Yeah. When you have these 4 in the ring at the same time, you just got to sit back and watch. No complaints here. My only complaint is they didn't go 10 more minutes. I wouldn't say, you might disagree, I wouldn't say this is a perfect 5-star match. I think it's close. I think Meltzer, he gave it 4 3/4, and I agree with that. I don't think it was quite 5 stars. But to me, this is the greatest tag team match in company history. And I think that still stands to this day. I really do. To me, when I think of Ruthless Aggression era, I go to this match. This is the match that I think is this exemplifies the Ruthless Aggression era perfectly. You have high flying, you have traditional mat wrestling, you have everything. You have every style possible here. I mean, you have Benoit, who I consider to be the greatest technical wrestler who's ever lived. You have Rey Mysterio, who's one of the greatest high flyers of all time. You have Kurt Angle, who's a mat wrestler. And then you have Edge, who was also like that perfect package wrestler. So this was going to be gold. If you would have gave him 5 minutes, they still could have made this like a 4-star match. To me, this was just, I don't know, you can't top this. There may be some other tag matches in like New Japan and like, NWA and stuff that are better than this. But like I said, when it comes to WWE/F, greatest tag match they ever put on.
Well, I mean, this match was intense, action-packed, and obviously exciting at every turn. But you got to think of how creative it was for how everybody wrestled one another. Obviously, everybody can work with one another, which is why this match simplified, being one of the greatest tag team matches.
Like, I geeked out when Edge was in the crossface, and then Ray just 619s Benoit while he has the crossface in. Like, that is one of those things where you could tell these four were in the back all day coming up, beat for beat. Like, oh, let's do this. This will be fun if we try this. You had four, wrestling fans in here. Like, they wanted to put on a great show. The crowd was hot for this. They were hot. Like, this was awesome, I would have killed to see this live. And none of them probably knew what to expect. They're like, all right, it's SmackDown. They'll probably give it like 10 minutes. But no, this was the perfect way to end a tournament. I always say the best match should always be the finals. And, this wasn't the end of it. They would involve Los Guerreros later on. And which match do you prefer, the Survivor Series or this one?
Seeing that this match had more lineage, as this was the first ever SmackDown Tag Team title match, I would probably say this match. But I would say that the Survivor Series match practically catapulted the career of the Guerreros as being another top tag team, as obviously Benoit and Kurt Angle weren't going to be a tag team forever. So obviously they were going to split up, doing their own thing, wrestle each other at the Royal Rumble for the WWE Championship. Obviously they had to pass that creative torch to, a new face of tag teams. But obviously they did that with the Los Guerreros, and then later on they would do that with Team Angle, Shelton Benjamin and Charlie Haas.
Yeah, world's greatest tag team. My problem, okay, this is being nitpicky. Look, I love the World Tag Team and the WWE Tag Belts. That's what tag team belts should look like, not the stupid dimes and pennies we have nowadays. Look like fucking came from Toys R Us. Why did they call them the WWE Tag Titles? Like, I just think they really, like, because I think to, like, a young fan, it's just going to be confusing. They're like, all right, so what's the difference between the World and the WWE? That's the one thing I agree with. Modern wrestling. Here we go. This is one. Raw Tag Team and SmackDown Tag Team.
Well, I think that was the biggest mistake that they made when they first did the brand extension. I don't think they were really aware of, hey, maybe we do need another set of tag team titles, as we could just do this as like a cross-brand thing. But I think they wanted to keep it on more traditional terms by just saying, hey, this is a brand split. Nobody's friendly in each other's territory, so, we got to make it look like, subliminal beef. So why they made that mistake of just saying, separating World Tag Team titles from, oh, this ain't the world, but this is a set of tag team titles. I think that's obviously something that they fixed when they relaunched the brand split in 2016. Raw Tag Team titles, SmackDown Tag Team titles. Sounds a lot better. I don't think it looks I don't think the name looks good on a plate.
No.
But, I mean, yeah.
It's just like, okay, it's a SmackDown tag belt, but you call it the WWE tag belt, which means anyone in WWE can fight for it. It just doesn't make sense. It's just contradicting. Anyway, whatever.
And the only other thing I hated about this is the short reign for Angle and Benoit, as they would literally lose the titles, I believe, that same week or next week on SmackDown to Mysterio and Edge.
Yeah, they should have continued that until like December, leading up to the Royal Rumble match between them. I think that would have just added some spice to the rivalry, or even have them still be champions. You've had that before where, you have a world title match, but they're still tag team champions as well. So why not just put the belts on them until WrestleMania? Fuck it,
Pretty much.
One structure that few have entered.
This ominous, unforgiving steel that will rip flesh at every turn.
One place that few have dared to go.
It is 20 feet high. Completely different animal.
Two will meet in one battle where few have walked away.
Hell in a cell.
Brock Lesnar, The Undertaker, the WWE Championship match.
You haven't been taken where I'm going to take you. WWE No Mercy. Tonight, live on pay-per-view.
We get to a segment in the back where Undertaker's backstage, and the doctor, he basically intimidates the Doctor into giving him a shot so he can make it through Hell in a Cell. Making Taker look like a tough guy. And then we go into the next match. Women's title match. Trish Stratus taking on Victoria. Very early character of Victoria. Obviously, she wasn't going through the whole psycho phase with the eyeball on the hand and, being managed by Stevie Richards. This angle was basically Victoria claiming that Trish slept her way to the top when it came to fitness model world and shit. So
hey, she barked in the ring like a dog for this title, man. That's dedication.
I mean, you know what? I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, nothing wrong with that. I mean, they're both beautiful women.
Yeah,
beautiful women. But honestly, I think these are two women's wrestlers who could put on a clinic if they really are given that opportunity. Obviously, this match, they just wanted to get this out the way, clear the wind. Take your bathroom breaks now. You got 5 minutes before we get to the main event, which is so sad when it comes to these two wrestlers. I don't know. I just felt like this match could have been a little bit longer. Make it at least maybe like 8 minutes, not even 10 minutes. Just to give them an extra 3 minutes, see what the women's division is capable of. Obviously, they were mainly focused on mud wrestling at the time and bikini contests. And, Sable would end up coming back a little bit later. Yuck.
Yeah, nobody wants to see her in a bikini contest. Jesus Christ. Except for Brock Lesnar, maybe. Ugh.
And then we, before we get to the main event, we get to a segment with Rikishi at WWE New York or WWE The World or whatever, talk about how the December 2000 Hell in a Cell match changed his life.
Yeah, got thrown in the hay bale. I do love that match. That's like one of my favorite Cell matches.
Honestly, that's actually one match that I've never watched in its entirety.
Really?
Only because I don't really exemplify that as being like one of those big caliber matches because it's mainly focusing on more than just two characters. I feel like if you have a Hell in a Cell match, it should be mainly focused on two characters and where the rivalry is basically just going to end up if they don't calm their shit. But having 6 guys in there and steel structured, I thought it was okay. I think it was, not really much you could do in a ring with 6 guys being surrounded in a cell. Obviously, you're going to have to break your way through. I think it would have been more creative if you had just 2 guys. Obviously, examples leading to that would be like Michaels and Undertaker. So.
Well, the thing about that match, it's not a good match at all. But It's a fucking fun as hell match. It's one of those like just stupid fun. It was more of a parking lot brawl for half of it. But you're throwing cameras at people. But one thing that match did really do was legitimize Kurt Angle's WWE title reign because he beat 5 other guys in the cell. So I think it did have some purpose, especially for Kurt Angle.
Right. Yeah. I don't know. Just those types of matches, I feel like those would be personal grudge matches, not more like, hey, let's tell your friends and let's get them involved too because it's none of their damn fucking business.
I agree completely. But it's a fun as hell match.
It is, but that's something I'm going to have to watch in its entirety. I don't know. For some reason, WWF in the year 2000 wasn't really my favorite year.
Well, I don't like Attitude Era, so.
I would prefer like early stages, like 97, 98, maybe early 99, but after that, it's kind of like, kind of like a dark cloud. Like, can't see. I don't think I want to see anyway. I'll just turn right back around.
Yep.
So, getting into the main event here, Hell in a Cell match for the WWE Championship. Brock Lesnar alongside Paul Heyman taking on The Undertaker. Now, obviously, Undertaker got juiced up backstage. He's like, all right, juice me up. I want to make it through the night. I don't want to go through another painkiller. But it's this would be Undertaker's last pay-per-view before being sidelined with an injury and not returning till the 2003 Royal Rumble match. This was a very innovative match. I mean, it definitely looked tough for Brock, but I love the way Undertaker utilized the cell. I mean, I think he utilized it a lot more in this sense than back in his first Hell in a Cell match in '97. And, I mean, not saying that, hey, you should throw Brock off the top, see what happens between him and Mick Foley. But I'm just saying, like, I think he utilized a lot more cell structure inside it rather than outside, which I like because it just seems like a personal grudge match where it's like, hey, don't let the dog fucking loose or else they're going to fucking bite. Yeah, I like this match. It was a very solid effort that suffered gaps in psychology and logic. That basically what held it back a little bit. But like I said, I like the way some of the structure inside or, psychology inside was utilized rather than just taking everything outside and, hey, let's climb the cage so we can hype up the fans.
Yeah, it's fine if you want to do that every few years, but I prefer a traditional cell match where you're just in there, you're bloody, you can't get out, there's no outside interference. If I see that door open, I'm automatically more taken out of it. It's advertised as you can't escape and nobody can get in. But somehow...
And the fact that you obviously can tell that Undertaker's hurt in this match, too. Guy's trying to perform a choke slam. He's thinking about it like, oh, it's going to sell. No problem. Nope. He can't pull off a choke slam. It just looked like shit.
Yeah, and still injured. This was a great effort. Yeah, I think both carried themselves well. Like, it's not like Taker carried Brock. Like, Brock was impressive at the time. You know me, I'm a Brock Lesnar fan. So,
with those, and you know what? With those two monsters in the ring, I wouldn't consider this a good match, but appropriately violent, sort of say.
Yeah, a cell match should always have blood. It should always, don't get me started on that, but it should always have fucking blood. You can't, blood is only good when it's necessary. And this is a time where it's always 100% necessary. This and cage matches. Those are the only times you should ever, or maybe like a street fight, some gimmick matches. But yeah, like you always need blood for this. And speaking of blood, Taker, man, he cut an artery or something. Oh man, he pulled an Eddie Guerrero. Pulled a Great Muta.
Yep, pretty much. No wonder why the guy was sidelined for 3 months. He probably forgot his name and everything. Holy shit. But which leads me to another question, which, this was obviously still in his biker phase as the American Badass / Big Evil. But my question is, do you think WWE was considering within those 3 months that he was gone of possibly resurrecting his dead man gimmick?
Well, I know Vince always wanted it. From what I've heard many times, Vince would sit him down and try to convince him to go back to Deadman, which, me, I agree. I think
because even I heard at WrestleMania 20 when he made his return, they basically said, "Hey, we want you to do the Deadman," and he still didn't want to do the Deadman gimmick.
I think me and Vince are the only two people that fucking hate the Biker Taker. I hated it. Oh my God, I hated it. And I'm not even saying, I was never honestly the biggest Undertaker guy anyway. So maybe I'm I'm looking at it more unbiased here because I'm not really invested in the Undertaker. I never disliked him, but I've never loved him. But I think 2004 was a good time. I don't think they should have done it at WrestleMania 19. I think they let it run its course. I think by the end of 2003, it was over. So I think they did pick the perfect time to bring the Dead Man back, which I'm sure we'll get to that eventually in detail. But yeah, even someone that hates Biker Taker, I don't think it was over yet. I think it still had a lot of momentum.
Well, and that's the thing too. I can't sit there and hate Biker Taker. I can't sit there and admit I disliked character because when I first got into wrestling, that was the version of Undertaker I was introduced to. So right away, I was connected with the Undertaker. And, especially back in the day when I was, younger, watching like the History Channel about fucking Harley Davidson and shit. So I was like, okay, I dig this character, American Badass, Big Evil. He's one big bad son of a bitch. All right, he kicks ass. But obviously, when he came back as the Dead Man gimmick, I liked it, but I feel like it got old quickly because it was so bland, because it was something that everybody was so used to. So, I mean, he tried to improvise it with only his moves and his style in the ring, but obviously it didn't really work in the character because everybody just loved Undertaker for its nostalgia.
I think Undertaker's like 2004, 5, and 6, I think they were rough years. I always said he hit his peak career-wise in 2007. He really fucking did. When he came back as Dead Man, it gets a pop, but look at what they were doing after that. You had the Concrete Crypt match. You had that awful storyline with Booker T. The Randy Orton rivalry was great, but I think that's the only thing, that and Kurt Angle, those are like the only two things that actually happened during the Ruthless Aggression era until 2007 for Taker. I think it was rough for him. It was, like you said, bland. You'd occasionally have him floating to the ring for an entrance, coming out of burning caskets, but that shit gets old.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think it was a big mistake. I mean, Undertaker coming back in 2004, he didn't necessarily receive the biggest pop after Mania. I mean, he was sitting there feuding with guys like JBL for the WWE Championship, which I don't mind because JBL was a pretty decent heel around that time. He basically elevated himself to saying, hey, I'm tired of becoming of this tag team douchebag that used to play for the Raiders. I want to be a main event guy, bring some of his personal life into wrestling. And then, just the countless other guys that Undertaker was feuding with. He feuded with the Dudley Boys and, basically suffocated Paul Bear and Concrete. You had him feuding with Heidenreich, who Heidenreich was actually managed by Paul Heyman at that time. That's a forgettable Paul Heyman guy.
Oh boy. Yeah, and then he molested Michael Cole in the locker room. God, I hated. Ugh. And then he became a Road Warrior though. So yeah, there you go, Heidenreich.
You know what? Let's not go there because I'm a Road Warrior fan, so let's not go there. At the time, I would probably say I can tolerate it because I was 11 years old and obviously didn't know better. I was just like, oh, cool, he's a Road Warrior. But it's like, fuck, I feel so bad. Hawk's like, well, you fucking stupid bastard. See what you got yourself into? Yeah, I made that mistake a long time ago. I've learned my lesson. But
that's good.
not only that, but the fact it's not only you gave them the SmackDown tag team titles at the Great American Bash, we're doing this for Hawk. All right, I understand that, but I think it would have been a little bit more necessary with a different partner. I wouldn't have necessarily chose Heidenreich just because the guy's structure and, give him a old Hawk. He already has tattoos and he already does this weird fucking dance like how, Hawk would sound like a fucking Joker. But then later down the line, going into next year, 2006, you basically pulled the reversed psychology on Road Warrior, and he basically goes back to his old gimmick that he started with back in 1982-83.
So, in terms of all-time cell matches, where would you rank this one?
This cell match, I mean, how can you not say it's up there with the first Hell in a Cell match and then Undertaker and Mankind from King of the Ring 98? I wouldn't necessarily put it in my top 5, but I would put it as a big necessity, as in, Undertaker's been in a lot of good matches, a lot of good cell matches. This is one of the forgettable gems that nobody really talks about with Undertaker. Same thing if you look back and, WrestleMania 18, him versus Ric Flair. Who really talks about that match?
And do you prefer this one or the 2015 Brock Lesnar and Taker cell match?
I would definitely prefer 2002. That's no question. I mean, by the time 2015 came along, Brock really didn't give a shit about his arsenal of moves. He was just getting paid for doing 20 German suplexes until, somebody goes to sleep or ruptures an artery and then hits him with like 2 or 3 F5s. Like, God forbid, he's dead. All right, just pin him. Leave him alone. He's gone. Can't do it no more. If he dies, he dies. I'm sorry, Apollo. Like, not guilty.
Wow, I just got a notification that Eric Rowan has made his debut in AEW tonight.
Well, that's
as Redbeard.
Yeah, he's actually been going under that moniker for a little while since his release. So,
did not know that.
Yeah, so that's different. Going back 15 years ago, or a little bit more than that. Yeah, I mean, when it comes to this Hell in a Cell match, I would say it's necessary, only because it's, like I said, it's one of those gems it's one of those forgotten gems. Yeah.
Like I said, this is probably my favorite Cell match. Maybe it's because it's the most nostalgic for me, because I do love Mankind and Taker, but that's cliche. Everyone loves that match. And this one, like I said, I think it was rushed. It was too soon, but they made it work. Paul Heyman got a little color, so that's always fun to see. Love me some Paul Heyman. But you know what I would have done? It's because he got a hold of his tie, right? And that's how I really wish in 2015 for their Cell match, he made it clear he's like, I'm not wearing a tie this time, and he comes in with no tie. Like, it's little stuff. It's continuity. Did they even mention that Cell match in 2015?
Oh God, I don't think they're too thoroughly. They'll just look back at their history and say, hey, these guys faced each other in the same type of structure in 2002, yada, yada. They ain't going to go that deep in thought. That's like bringing up Chris Benoit. Like, who? Yeah, mentioned the 2005 for Elimination Chamber match.
Yeah, it's true. But, letter grade.
Oh, my gosh, letter grade. This was good. I wouldn't say it was spectacular. I mean, it was still an awesome pay-per-view for, being one of the 2002 pay-per-views. But you got to look at it this way. When it comes to the SmackDown tag team match, that's something that you have to see once, only because SmackDown at the time was in a serious groove, and they were able to put up, good matches for the wins. So, especially when it came to ratings as well, you're practically beating the top, you're beating your own flagship show with a secondary show that was used to compete with Thunder back in 98, 99. Heh, not anymore. Now you got the guys from Thunder on SmackDown, you dumb fucks. So
you could have taken anything to compete with Thunder. Jesus Christ.
But yeah, I think when it comes to this lettering grade, with the exclusions of HLAs and booking fucking lesbians, Al Wilson and fucking Kane's fucking deceased mistress, fucking Katie Vicks. This could be a solid pay-per-view. I mean, obviously, it's not caliber of, like, learning, experience wrestling where it's going to take you to school. No, this ain't like the NWA back in 1984, 85. No way. But when it comes to this pay-per-view, I mean, Raw did good, too. As far as Raw is concerned, the only thing that they had good over there at the time was Trish Stratus. That was pretty much it. But lettering grade, I would give this a B minus.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to go with. I was teetering on a B, but I'm like, It's definitely not C+. It's definitely not a B. I would say B minus. This is one of my favorite B pay-per-views of all time. It's a must-watch. And, it goes to show, like, nowadays, your B pay-per-views, they don't exist. Where this is back when B pay-per-views could also kick ass. And a lot of the times they were better than their Big Four pay-per-views. Like, this was better than the Rumble, and, I personally enjoy this more than WrestleMania 18. I know you won't agree with that, but...
You know what? I tell you what, Freak, why not do this for the viewers? Why not one of our next episodes, we could talk about maybe our top 5, maybe our top 10 B-show pay-per-view matches.
Pay-per-view matches? Oh, boy. Yeah. That's an easy list. I could do that.
Yeah. So if you guys want to see that, just drop it in the comments. So,
God, I already know what your number one is. I'll say it off camera because I can guess right now.
Oh man. Sheesh. All right. Well, we'll get to that a little bit later. I'm sure he'll tell me as soon as we get off the live stream here. But yeah, this was a great pay-per-view. Definitely a good follow-up B show from Unforgiving, which I would consider that an average C show at most. But when it comes to this pay-per-view, a lot of historic events that happened. A lot of good technicality, a lot of good styles clashes, a lot of good in-ring necessary matches that were considered violent and less focused on the wrestling aspects, where they took grudges to a whole new level. So, and this was just the beginning of the Ruthless Aggression era. It's going to get a lot better. The next time you hear from us for our retro reviews, we will be reviewing the last UK pay-per-view of 2002, Rebellion, of course, with Brock Lesnar on the cover.
The same fucking cover as Unforgiven.
I tell you what, though, when it comes to UK pay-per-views, they definitely book from an inadequate aspect, where it's just like, it's so weird, but it's like, it's something that you want to invest in.
Yeah, I mean, we do have some good stuff on here. We have Angle and Benoit versus the Guerreros. We have the Triple Threat Cruiserweight Championship match. So, yeah, there's some good stuff to look forward to.
But, guys, the next time you see the Pro Wrestle Zone podcast, it will be Sunday. It'll be next year. It's going to be a new year. 2021. Hopefully better than this shit show. God, icing on the cake, that'll be tomorrow. Let's see what happens tomorrow.
I had a good year. This was probably that's not saying much, but this is one of the better years I've had in the past, 10 years. But like I said, that's not saying much. But, yeah.
Well, like I said, guys, we will be here for our next episode next year, coming the first Sunday of 2021, as the Pro Wrestle Zone podcast. We'll be reviewing the last WCW pay-per-view with Greed 2001, in which we are coming to the 20th anniversary of WCW closing its doors.
Good.
And selling it to its adversary.
I'm glad it closed down. That was last season, or Old Yeller was already dead. It was already dead. They just put a bullet in it just for safekeeping.
It was basically Old Yeller with Alzheimer's. Basically just repeating the same format.
It was blind, retarded, crippled. It had everything. Alzheimer's disease, Lou Gehrig's disease.
Well, I don't know. Hold on. I don't know about crippled, because that was at the prior pay-per-view leading up to that. Obviously the Sid Vicious angle. Yeah, we go out there and break a leg, kid. Not literally, but social media, Freak.
Feeling lazy tonight. Type in DVD Freak. Click on the link. There you go. You'll find me somewhere.
Of course, guys, you can find me on all forms of social media. But of course, you can find me on YouTube at DNTheBeast94. So be sure to hit that subscribe button. Especially if you're going to be watching my channel and you're not subscribed. Hold on a second. What are you doing? Hit that button. And of course, subscribe to the Pro Wrestle Zone podcast. Happy New Year. drink all the champagne you possibly can.
Ooh.
And make sure next year is worthwhile. And a quote that my father always used to say, mind over matter. Until next time, guys, y'all have a great night.